Your body is on fire, your throat feels like it is closing, your head is pounding so hard you can barely open your eyes. Nobody is coming with medicine because there is no medicine cabinet, no clinic, no pharmacy down the street, no number you can call. For most of human history, this was simply what being sick meant. For roughly 300,000 years, Homo sapiens lived without antibiotics, without vaccines, without a single sterile bandage. And yet you are here. Your ancestors survived infections, broken bones, parasites, and fevers that would send a modern person straight to an emergency room. How did they do it? The answer is not luck. It is something closer to an ancient, imperfect system of medicine built on three things: plants, memory, and hard decisions about who was worth saving. Start with the plants. In 2012, archaeologist Karen Hardy and her team examined the fossilized dental plaque of Neanderthals at El Cedron Cave in Spain. Dental plaque sounds unglamorous, but it is a kind of time capsule. It traps tiny particles of everything a person chewed over a lifetime, sealed in place for tens of thousands of years. Hardy's team found something strange inside it: traces of chamomile and yarrow. Both plants are bitter. Neither has any real nutritional value. The only reason to put them in your mouth is because you know somehow that they help, as pain relief, as anti-inflammatories, as remedies for an upset stomach. Think about what that means. Before written language, before anything resembling science, someone figured out which weeds calmed a fever or eased a cramping gut. That knowledge did not come from a textbook. It came from watching, trying, failing, and trying again, one sick body at a time, then passing the answer on by word of mouth and habit. Every bitter leaf in that Neanderthal's mouth was information, hard-won, tested, and carried forward across generations who never wrote a single word down. Now travel north, and much later in time, to a glacier high in the Alps. In 1991, hikers stumbled on a body frozen in the ice for over 5,000 years, a man researchers now call Otzi. When scientists examined him, they found whipworm eggs in his gut. They found early hardening in his arteries. They found DNA evidence of Lyme disease in his blood. By any measure, this was a sick man carrying multiple conditions at once, but he was also carrying two pieces of birch fungus threaded onto a leather strip like a tiny survival kit. That specific fungus has natural antiparasitic and antibacterial properties. He also had over 60 tattoos on his skin, clustered almost exactly over joints where researchers later found arthritis and heavy wear. These were not decoration. They were pain markers, placed in the same spots again and again, in what many researchers believe was an early form of therapeutic treatment, not unlike acupuncture, so a toolkit clearly existed. Bitter herbs for infection and pain, fungal antibiotics carried like a first aid kit, even something resembling targeted pain treatment on the skin itself. But plants and fungus can only do so much. What happened when the illness was too severe to walk off? What happened when someone could no longer hunt, walk, or gather? Were they left behind? This is where the story gets more complicated and more human than most people expect. In a cave in northern Iraq called Shanidar, archaeologists uncovered the skeleton of a Neanderthal man anthropologists now call Shanidar 1. When researcher Eric Trinkaus examined the bones, he found a body that by any reasonable expectation should not have survived. This man was blind in one eye. His right arm had been broken so severely that it had withered away, very possibly amputated near the elbow. He had a healed fracture in one leg that would have left him with a serious limp. He had lost most of his hearing, and yet the bone growth around his injuries showed they had healed, some of them decades before his death, at an age researchers estimate was around 40 to 50 years old, remarkably old for his time. A man with those injuries could not hunt. He could not easily gather food or travel long distances alone. In a world with no farms, no stored grain, and no safety net beyond the people standing next to you, feeding one extra person who could not contribute was a genuine cost, and yet someone paid that cost for years, maybe for decades. That single skeleton reshaped how anthropologists think about prehistoric life. Care was not a soft-hearted accident. It was, as researcher Penny Spickens has argued, a strategy as real and deliberate as any stone tool or controlled fire. Groups that carried their injured, instead of abandoning them, held on to accumulated skill, memory, and social trust, and that made the entire group more resilient the next time disaster struck. Compassion, in other words, had survival value. It was not a luxury layered on top of survival. It was part of the survival mechanism itself. So, picture a single day inside one of these communities. Someone wakes before dawn with a fever that will not break. Their skin is hot to the touch. The group does not panic because this has happened before to other people, and there is a shared memory of what comes next. An older member of the group chews yarrow into a rough paste and presses it against the person's forehead. Someone else builds up the fire because heat itself, and the simple act of staying warm, was one of the only defenses anyone had against infection and cold. The sick person is not left at the mouth of the cave to manage alone. They are moved closer to the flames, given water, checked on through the night by someone who does not sleep straight through. But here is the counterintuitive part, the part that complicates the warm picture. This kind of care was not universal, and it was never guaranteed. Anthropologist Richard Lee, in his long-term studies of the Kalahari Sand People during the 20th century, one of the last populations to live a foraging lifestyle close to our ancestors, documented how decisions about care shifted constantly with circumstance. A famine season, a dangerous migration, a group already stretched thin, any of these could change what care looked like in practice. Prehistoric medicine was not sentimental. It was closer to a running calculation, remade constantly, about what the group could actually afford to give without endangering everyone else. That is the twist most people miss when they picture the deep past. You tend to imagine one of two extremes. Either life was brutally cold, survival of the fittest with no mercy for anyone who slowed down, or it was warmly communal, everyone cared for equally no matter the cost. The truth sits uncomfortably in between. Care existed, and it is written directly into fossilized bone. But it was also rationed by conditions nobody could control. Your ancestors were neither saints nor savages. They were problem solvers, working with almost nothing, making the best call they could with the information and resources in front of them. And this is where it lands on you, right now, today. You can walk into a pharmacy and buy, in about 5 minutes, what took your ancestors uncounted generations of trial, error, and memorized knowledge to even partially understand. A fever that might have killed a Neanderthal is treated today with a pill you barely think twice about. An infection that once required a fungus threaded onto a leather string is now handled by antibiotics manufactured by the billion sitting in a bottle in your bathroom cabinet. But something else survives from that older system, something no pill has ever replicated. When you are sick today and someone brings you soup, sits beside your bed, or checks on you again the next morning just to see how you're doing, that instinct is not simply modern politeness. It is older than agriculture, older than cities, older, quite possibly, than language itself. It is the same instinct that kept a blind, one-armed man alive in a cave in Iraq for years longer than his injuries should have allowed. Your body is not on fire anymore. There is medicine within reach, a phone in your pocket, a doctor a short drive away. But the reason you are even here to use any of it traces back through bitter plants chewed by firelight, fungus threaded onto a string on a frozen mountainside, and a small group of people who decided again and again across thousands of generations that one of their own was worth carrying.